Right, we begin here. Portfolio Committee chairpersons will be elected in Parliament today. The DA is expected to put forward their own candidates. The official opposition party is objecting to some controversial ANC nominees who are set to occupy the key oversight roles in what the National Assembly describes as the engine rooms of Parliament. eNCA's Lindsay Dentlinger is tracking that story for us, and she joins us live from Cape Town. Lindsay, good morning to you. So, what exactly does the DA plan to do, apart from their plans to field their own candidates, which I'm sure some will say it's an exercise in futility, really?
Good morning, Chloe. Well, whether it's an exercise in futility or not, John Steenhuisen, the DA's Chief Whip, will tell us just shortly. But it is unprecedented that the election of chairpersons of portfolio committees, however important those committees are here in Parliament, is met with such a lot of controversy. As we know, there were delays in the announcement of those nominees who will chair those committees made at the 11th hour on the eve of the State of the Nation address. And now we have the ANC putting forward candidates that opposition parties are not happy with for various reasons, mostly because of their tenuous links to the state capture project. And we've already seen one chairperson nominee, I should say, dropped from the list of original candidates due to public pressure from lobby group Equal Education, who was opposed to the former Buffalo City mayor, who was convicted of fraud, from chairing the Basic Education Committee. But with me, I have John Steenhuisen from the DA to explain and to answer that question for you, Chloe. John, is it an exercise in futility to want to nominate your own candidates today?
No, I don't think so. I think that as the official opposition, we're duty-bound to put forward an alternate when the nominee is patently unsuitable to occupy a position of leadership within Parliament. Committee chairs are very, very important. We saw in the 5th Parliament how errant committee chairs could essentially stop procedures of investigation. The former chair of the Home Affairs Portfolio Committee, for instance, was able to delay the Gupta naturalisation inquiry for over a year, and it was only through significant pressure that we were able to. So we have to offer the alternative. It cannot be right that parties just sit back and allow these corrupt architects, enablers and implementers of state capture to be elected unopposed. It would be a terrible reflection on the multi-party environment that is Parliament.
How much support do you have from other opposition parties? Because even if you do have their support, the numbers are stacked against you.
Yes, of course, the numbers are stacked against us. There are a number of parties that we know will be abstaining from any form of voting. There will be others that will be supporting candidates that are put up as chairperson nominees in the various portfolio committees. But I think that what parties need to do is to make sure that they're acting in the best interests of the people that have sent us here, in the best interests of Parliament. For this institution to have such tainted individuals as chairpersons of portfolio committees really reflects very poorly on the integrity and the ability of this institution to perform its function of exercising oversight. Parliament's already been singled out by, for instance, the Deputy Chief Justice for scathing criticism of its failure to hold the executive accountable, particularly over state capture and the Gupta project. And I think that having these individuals in these important positions is going to hamper rather than help the efforts to clean up and clean out corruption, maladministration and state capture.
You're going to put forward 10 alternatives for the more than 30 committees that are meeting this morning. Failing that, what is your next course of action in terms of dealing with these chairpersons that are likely to be elected today?
Yes, we're only going to be putting alternative candidates forward, certainly in 9 of the portfolio committees, and that's because the chairperson nominees are so egregious. And also to show that this isn't a matter of petty partisanship. If that was the case, we would put up candidates in every single election. This is about doing what's right for the people of South Africa. It's doing what's right for Parliament. Alternatively, if those people get elected, those compromised individuals, we will obviously adopt strategies and tactics within Parliament to make life extremely difficult for them. We will table in those committees matters that relate to state capture, relate to areas where they have been exposed, and they will then be forced to recuse themselves from those meetings. After a number of recusals, it's going to become very evident that these people were inappropriate to have been chosen to be chairing portfolio committees. But if they think they're going to simply get elected and then have an easy ride for the next 5 years, it's not going to be the case. As the opposition, it's our duty to stand up for what's right and to oppose what is wrong. It is wrong what the ANC have done by putting such compromised individuals into these key positions, and they must be made to be reminded on a daily basis how bad the decision was.
You have mentioned that you also plan to lay complaints with the Ethics Committee. When do you plan to do that, and how successful do you think that's going to be?
Well, the Ethics Committee is going to be established shortly. Once that is done, we will try, first of all, to revive a number of the Ethics Committee complaints against individuals. For instance, there was a very advanced probe into one of the nominees today, Mr. Bongani Bongo, who was accused of bribing the evidence leader in the Eskom inquiry. There are a number of ministers like Tina Jumaat-Peterson who escaped an Ethics Committee investigation by resigning. She is now an MP, and I think she must be held accountable, particularly around the fuel reserve debacle here in Parliament. And obviously we'll put new complaints in about evidence that has been led at the state capture inquiry headed by Deputy Chief Justice Zondo. New information there for Parliament to probe. Parliament must hold itself to a higher standard. It must be the beacon of ethics and accountability in South Africa. Putting compromised people like this into these positions does the institution no good, and it undermines the credibility of this House to be able to do what needs to be done.
Thank you, John. So there you have it, Xoli. As I said, it's not a business as usual here today. We're expecting a little more action in these portfolio committees. As I said, over 30 of them will be meeting this morning, the first lot starting just shortly, and we'll report back later as to how those have turned out.
Lindsay Dentling, I thank you very much for that update, my colleague.